Have you ever been holding an angle, waiting for that enemy that you know is around the corner to peek you so you could get the drop on him? Then he peeks and headshots you before you can even react? There's a chance that this could have been caused by an issue of peeker's advantage, which is an issue caused by network latency and isn't a problem when you play on LAN, and it isn't related to angle advantage, which is not a network latency issue and can be used to your advantage both on LAN and online. Dying because someone starts shooting before you can see them or before you could possibly have the time to react can be incredibly frustrating, but there are things you can do to counter this issue and potentially use it to your advantage and turn the tables. I'm Hudi with Level Up Gaming, and I late night stream on Twitch at /BrianHudi on Mondays and Wednesdays and sometimes on the weekends. And I also stream right here on the YouTube channel every Thursday at 6:30 Central Time. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. But what is an angle advantage? I know you're here to learn about peeker's advantage, but this plays a huge role in what you perceive as peeker's advantage. As you can see, as I slowly peek out around this corner, the angle that the Sage is hiding behind, I can eventually see her, but she can't see me just yet. This is because she is much closer to the angle than I am. The further away you are from an angle, the earlier you'll see someone hiding near it, potentially before they can see you. This is often the cause of a lot of frustration because you never see the person who killed you, but they saw you. So how can you use this to your advantage? I'm not going to tell you that you should never hold close angles, but you need to be aware of the disadvantage they could put you at and do your best to play around them. When you're peeking angles or clearing corners, the best thing to do is to clear as far away from it as you can. This will potentially give you the advantage of being able to see the enemy around the corner before they see you. Angle advantage can be used to negate some of the effects of peeker's advantage. But what is peeker's advantage exactly? Well, peeker's advantage is when the player that's doing the action of peeking around the corner can see the player they are peeking a few milliseconds before the other player can see them. This is assuming that all things are equal. If you are the exact same distance from the corner that is being peeked, and you are standing roughly at the same angle that they are peeking from. It is almost never the case that everything is equal in a gunfight. That is why you should be trying your best to use angle advantage to counter peeker's advantage, but we'll get into that a little bit more later. Like I said, they can see you a few milliseconds before you can see them, or vice versa. This is largely due to network latency and is inherent in almost all online games to some extent, especially if you're playing FPSs. Then, if you add in angle advantage, peeker's advantage can often seem much worse than it actually was if they also have an advantageous angle on you. This is because not only can the enemy peeking the angle see you first if you are closer to the corner being peeked, but they have the advantage of the network latency on their side. Because of this, if you watch high-level Valorant players, you will notice that they do not often sit perfectly still, holding angles when playing online. This is because they know that the player that is peeking is the player that will have the advantage, and they want to give themselves the best chance to win any gunfight they take. So how do you counter peeker's advantage? There are very few situations where if you know there is a chance an enemy is going to be peeking you, that you should be sitting perfectly still holding an angle, unless of course you're playing on LAN. Instead, you should be doing one of the following things. If you think there might be someone coming, but you aren't sure, you should be jiggle peeking around the corner, going back and forth, hopefully giving yourself the advantage once the enemy is in a position where you can see them by peeking. This will hopefully put you on the advantageous side of peeker's advantage, or at least that's the goal. Another thing you can do is once you know there is an enemy coming, don't give them the opportunity to peek you. Be the aggressor, use the information you have if you have that information, and be the one to peek the angle and take the gunfight, giving you peeker's advantage instead of the enemy. And then you can also partially counter peeker's advantage by holding off angles. If you force the enemy peeking player to have to move their crosshair because you're not holding an angle that is the default angle that they would expect you to be holding, or that they might be pre-aiming, then it can negate some of that peeker's advantage that they might have by pre-aiming and peeking you. If I pre-aim an angle that players commonly hold when I peek, which is the correct thing to do in a lot of cases, but someone is holding an off angle, I have to adjust my crosshair, which adds some time before I can potentially get that kill, potentially giving the player I'm peeking the opportunity to get the drop on me despite my peeker's advantage. This is the reason why you see off angles so effective sometimes. One way to counter another player potentially holding an off angle if you're on the other side of this is to progressively peek out and clear all potential enemy positions instead of just wide peeking the default angle they might be holding. This strategy heavily relies on crosshair placement and works way better when you are further away from the angle than any potential enemies would be. Riot Games has been doing a lot to counter peekers' advantage, and they've been deploying a lot of servers all over the world to help everybody have as low of latency as possible to make it the least amount of an issue as possible. And I will say, compared to other games that I've played, it's not quite as prominent. But that doesn't mean it's not there, and they will never get rid of it completely. So make sure you understand what things you should be doing to counter peekers' advantage, because it's going to happen. You're going to die by someone that peeked you before you even saw them or had the chance to react. If you want to learn more about crosshair placement and properly peeking and clearing angles, check out my video you see on the screen right now on how to win more gunfights in Valorant. I'll see you over there.